The silence hung heavy in the air, thick with grief and unspoken despair. Bethany was not just another village. It was a place where hope had been buried alongside Lazarus, sealed within a cold stone tomb. Martha's hands trembled as she moved through the small home, each movement a testament to the profound loss that had shattered their family's world. Her sister Mary sat motionless, her eyes vacant, the weight of mourning pressing against her like an immovable stone. Days had passed since Lazarus's death, and the community had gathered, offering their condolences and sharing in the family's sorrow. Yet beneath the surface of their mourning lay a deeper anguish, the sense that something fundamental had been irrevocably lost. The sisters had sent word to Jesus, their dear friend, hoping against hope that he might intervene, might bring some comfort. But he had not come. Not in time. Not when they needed him most. The streets of Bethany whispered with the painful memories of a life cut short. Lazarus, vibrant, loved, central to his family, was now just a memory, a shadow trapped within the confines of a sealed tomb. His absence was more than a physical loss. It represented a complete disconnection from life, from possibility, from hope. Grief is a landscape of its own, a terrain marked by emotional valleys so deep that escape seems impossible. For Martha and Mary, each passing moment felt like another layer of darkness settling over their world. They had watched their brother slip away, had prepared his body for burial, had experienced the crushing finality of death's embrace. Their pain was not just personal. It was a profound spiritual and emotional experience that threatened to consume everything. In this moment of absolute despair, something extraordinary was about to unfold. The story of Lazarus was not just about death, but about the unexpected ways hope can resurrect what appears permanently lost. It was a narrative that would challenge the very boundaries between life and death, between human limitation and divine possibility. The dusty streets of Bethany held their breath, unaware that a transformative moment was approaching. The sisters' mourning, their sense of abandonment, their crushed expectations, all of these were about to be confronted by a power that transcended human understanding. Something was coming that would challenge everything they believed about loss, about endings, about the very nature of hope itself. Their story was about to become more than a personal tragedy. It was destined to become a profound testimony of restoration, a living demonstration that no situation is truly beyond redemption. The tomb that seemed like a final destination was merely a temporary stopping point, a threshold waiting to be crossed. As the wind rustled through the narrow streets, carrying with it the scent of dried herbs and stone, a distant sound began to emerge, footsteps approaching, carrying with them the first whispers of an impossible transformation. The arrival of Jesus marked a profound disruption in the established narrative of grief. His presence was neither ceremonial nor passive. It was charged with an undercurrent of divine intentionality that immediately altered the atmospheric pressure of mourning. When he encountered Martha, her initial response was a mixture of desperate hope and resigned pain. "Lord, if you had been here, my brother would not have died." Her statement revealed more than personal loss. It exposed the complex landscape of human expectation when confronting seemingly insurmountable circumstances. Martha's words carried the weight of unspoken questions that resonate with anyone who has ever felt abandoned in their darkest moment. Where is God when suffering appears absolute and irredeemable? Remarkably, Jesus did not dismiss her pain or offer hollow platitudes. Instead, he engaged her theology directly, challenging her understanding of life, death, and resurrection. "I am the resurrection and the life," he declared, transforming a moment of personal grief into a universal statement about divine power and hope. This wasn't merely a consolation. It was a fundamental reimagining of what's possible when human limitations encounter spiritual potential. The interaction revealed a critical spiritual dynamic. Genuine hope isn't about denying pain, but about recognizing a power that transcends it. Jesus didn't minimize Martha's grief. He elevated her perspective. He invited her to see beyond the immediate circumstances, to perceive a reality not constrained by visible limitations. This encounter demonstrates how anxiety often creates mental tombs, psychological spaces where we entomb our dreams, potential, and possibilities. These self-constructed barriers feel impenetrably real, trapping us in narratives of impossibility. Yet Jesus' approach suggests that transformation begins not with grand gestures, but with a radical shift in perception. His words carried an implicit invitation to step beyond the comfortable narratives of defeat, to reimagine what healing and restoration might look like. This wasn't about positive thinking, but about recognizing a deeper spiritual truth that our current circumstances do not define our ultimate potential. The scene powerfully illustrates how divine intervention operates, not by erasing struggle, but by providing perspective that makes struggle navigable. Jesus didn't immediately resurrect Lazarus. He first engaged Martha's heart, challenging her understanding and expanding her spiritual imagination. In this moment, we witness a profound theological and psychological principle. True restoration begins with reimagining what's possible. The physical resurrection would come later, but the spiritual resurrection was already underway in this deeply personal, transformative conversation. Emerging from the profound theological dialogue, the scene shifted, revealing a deeper dimension of human vulnerability. At the tomb, Jesus' emotional response transcended conventional expectations. He wept, not with melodramatic excess, but with a profound, visceral empathy that penetrated the very fabric of human suffering. These weren't mere tears. They represented a divine acknowledgement of pain's raw, unfiltered reality. Surrounding mourners witnessed something unprecedented, divine vulnerability intertwined with human grief. Their whispers carried a mixture of confusion and reverence. "See how he loved him," some murmured, recognizing that this wasn't performative sorrow, but a genuine connection that defied traditional boundaries between human experience and spiritual presence. Profound silence enveloped the gathering, pregnant with anticipation. Every breath seemed suspended, waiting for something extraordinary. The stone blocking Lazarus's tomb wasn't just a physical barrier. It symbolized the psychological walls people construct around their deepest wounds, their most paralyzing fears. When Jesus commanded the stone to be removed, he challenged more than a literal obstruction. This was an invitation to confront what society typically avoids: the uncomfortable, the seemingly hopeless, the areas marked as beyond repair. Martha's practical objection about decomposition represented humanity's logical limitations, our tendency to be constrained by observable realities. Remarkably, this moment wasn't about miraculous spectacle, but transformative possibility. Jesus demonstrated that restoration begins where human understanding reaches its limits. Anxiety creates invisible barriers more restrictive than stone tombs. Mental landscapes where potential becomes imprisoned, where dreams decay in silent darkness. Imagine standing before your own metaphorical tomb: past failures, unresolved traumas, seemingly insurmountable challenges. The narrative suggests that divine intervention doesn't always remove obstacles immediately, but provides the courage to confront them. Each stone rolled away represents a conscious choice to believe beyond current circumstances. Onlookers watched, breath collectively held, as Jesus positioned himself not as a distant deity, but as an intimate participant in human struggle. His approach communicated a revolutionary concept. Healing isn't about erasing pain, but transforming our relationship with it. True resurrection happens internally before manifesting externally. The approaching miracle wasn't just about reviving a physical body, but resurrecting hope itself, demonstrating that what appears permanently lost can be reclaimed. This wasn't magical thinking, but a profound spiritual principle. Limitation is frequently a perspective problem, not a fundamental truth. Positioned at the tomb's entrance, Jesus embodied radical hope, a transformative presence that refuses to accept human definitions of possible and impossible. His imminent action would challenge every understood boundary between life and death, between despair and restoration. The atmosphere crackled with expectant tension, a palpable sense that something unprecedented was about to unfold, a moment that would forever redefine understanding of divine intervention, human potential, and the mysterious landscape between apparent ending and unexpected beginning. The thunderous call echoed through generations of human experience, transcending Lazarus's immediate resurrection. Psychological tombs aren't just metaphorical. They're intricate emotional landscapes where individuals become trapped by invisible chains of past trauma, repeated failures, and internalized narratives of impossibility. Modern psychological research reveals how deeply entrenched mental paralysis operates. Neurologically, sustained anxiety creates neural pathways that reinforce limitation, generating biochemical responses that literally make escape feel physically impossible. When someone repeatedly experiences rejection, failure, or profound loss, their brain develops protective mechanisms that prioritize safety over potential, creating internal barriers more formidable than stone walls. Imagine anxiety as a complex neural security system, meticulously programmed to prevent perceived threats. Each past wound becomes a security protocol, blocking potential pathways of transformation. These psychological defense mechanisms aren't weakness. They're sophisticated survival strategies developed through lived experiences. Remarkably, the brain interprets potential change as potential danger, triggering complex hormonal responses that make remaining stationary feel exponentially safer than moving forward. Transformation, therefore, requires more than motivational speeches or simplistic encouragement. Genuine restoration demands a comprehensive rewiring of internal belief systems. This isn't about positive thinking, but about developing neurological resilience, creating new neural pathways that challenge established limitation narratives. Consider how elite athletes overcome performance barriers. They don't merely wish for improvement. They systematically deconstruct existing mental models, introducing incremental challenges that gradually expand perceived limitations. Similarly, spiritual restoration involves intentional, strategic engagement with internal narratives that have calcified over time. Developmental psychology suggests that breakthrough moments often emerge through unexpected disruptions, experiences that fundamentally challenge existing mental frameworks. These interruptions create momentary cognitive flexibility, allowing individuals to glimpse possibilities beyond current constraints. Jesus' interaction with Lazarus represents such a disruption, a radical invitation to step beyond deeply entrenched psychological boundaries. Neuroscientific perspectives reveal that genuine transformation requires more than external intervention. It demands active participant engagement, a willingness to incrementally challenge internalized limitations. The resurrection narrative isn't just a miraculous event. It's a profound metaphor for human potential when confronted with compassionate, strategic disruption. Profound restoration, therefore, isn't about sudden, dramatic change. It's a nuanced process of gradual neural recalibration, where individuals systematically challenge and expand their perception of possible. Each small step becomes a neural rewiring, gradually dismantling psychological tombs constructed through years of accumulated experiences. The invitation remains consistent: step beyond current narratives. Recognize that your current experience represents a temporary geographical location, not a permanent destination. Transformation awaits those courageous enough to challenge internal narratives, to listen for invitations that transcend immediate circumstances. The landscape of personal struggle often reveals itself through unexpected sensory triggers. Imagine standing in a crowded subway, suddenly overwhelmed by a memory that freezes your breath, a panic attack emerging not from immediate danger, but from deeply embedded emotional muscle memory. Psychological research demonstrates that trauma doesn't merely reside in memory. It inhabits our physical responses, creating intricate neural networks that respond faster than conscious thought. Survival mechanisms develop like underground root systems, complex and invisible. When triggered, these networks activate instantaneously, flooding the body with cortisol, narrowing perception, transforming rational thinking into pure survival mode. A seemingly innocuous sound, smell, or visual cue can instantaneously transport someone back to their most vulnerable moment, rendering present circumstances irrelevant. Resilience, therefore, isn't about eliminating these responses, but developing sophisticated emotional navigation skills. Imagine your internal landscape as a sophisticated GPS system constantly recalculating routes when unexpected obstacles emerge. Emotional intelligence becomes the advanced technology that allows flexible rerouting, transforming potential paralysis into adaptive movement. Consider professional athletes who transform performance anxiety into focused energy. Their training involves precise emotional regulation techniques, breathing protocols, visualization strategies, and microsecond cognitive reframing. These aren't just psychological tricks, but scientifically designed interventions that rewire stress responses, converting potential shutdown into peak performance potential. Breakthrough moments frequently emerge through counterintuitive approaches. When traditional coping mechanisms fail, radical acceptance becomes a powerful alternative. This doesn't mean passive surrender, but a deliberate, strategic acknowledgement of current emotional terrain. By removing judgment, individuals create spaciousness, a critical psychological clearing where transformation can germinate. Neuroplasticity research reveals fascinating insights into human adaptability. Our brains possess remarkable capacity for restructuring, capable of generating new neural pathways throughout life. What appears fixed, deeply entrenched anxiety patterns can actually be gradually reshaped through consistent, intentional intervention. Spiritual practices intersect powerfully with psychological healing methodologies. Contemplative traditions have long recognized the transformative potential of present-moment awareness, a concept now validated by contemporary neuroscience. Meditation, far from passive relaxation, represents an active neural recalibration process, systematically dismantling automatic stress responses and cultivating intentional awareness. The journey from psychological paralysis to dynamic engagement resembles intricate geological transformation, slow, persistent, ultimately revolutionary. Each moment of courageous vulnerability becomes a microscopic shift, gradually reshaping internal landscapes previously considered immovable. The wilderness of human experience often conceals unexpected redemption pathways. Professional counselors increasingly recognize that emotional healing rarely follows linear trajectories, instead resembling intricate topographical landscapes with unexpected elevation shifts. Contemporary trauma research reveals how unprocessed emotional experiences create invisible architectural structures within our psychological ecosystem. These internal formations function like complex defense mechanisms, constructing elaborate protective barriers that paradoxically prevent genuine restoration. Individuals might intellectually desire transformation while unconsciously maintaining sophisticated emotional fortifications. Consider the subtle mechanics of emotional resistance. When confronted with potential change, the human psyche frequently deploys sophisticated camouflage techniques, creating rational explanations, constructing seemingly logical arguments that justify maintaining current psychological territories. These defense strategies aren't weakness. They represent advanced survival mechanisms developed through accumulated life experiences. Neurobiological studies demonstrate that emotional adaptation requires more than intellectual understanding. Genuine transformation demands comprehensive somatic engagement, a holistic approach integrating cognitive recognition, embodied awareness, and intentional behavioral recalibration. Healing becomes a multidimensional process transcending traditional therapeutic paradigms. Resilience emerges not through elimination of challenging experiences, but through developing sophisticated navigational skills. Imagine emotional intelligence as an advanced internal GPS system constantly recalculating routes when unexpected psychological terrain presents itself. The most effective navigators learn to read complex emotional landscapes, recognizing that perceived obstacles often contain hidden pathways toward unexpected growth. Breakthrough moments frequently manifest through counterintuitive interventions. Professional therapists increasingly recognize that traditional problem-solving approaches frequently reinforce existing psychological patterns. Alternative methodologies, emphasizing present-moment awareness, somatic experiencing, and compassionate self-observation, offer more nuanced transformation opportunities. Psychological plasticity reveals humans possess remarkable adaptive capacities. What appears immovable, deeply entrenched emotional patterns can actually be gradually restructured through intentional, consistent intervention. Each microscopic shift represents a potential portal toward expanded emotional freedom, challenging predetermined limitation narratives. Spiritual traditions have long understood transformation as a holistic journey integrating mind, body, and existential awareness. Contemporary scientific research increasingly validates ancient contemplative insights, demonstrating how intentional practices can systematically rewire neural pathways, creating space for unprecedented emotional flexibility. The journey from psychological constraint toward dynamic engagement resembles intricate geological transformation, slow, persistent, ultimately revolutionary. Individual moments of courageous vulnerability become microscopic tectonic shifts, gradually reshaping internal landscapes previously considered immutable. Ultimately, emotional restoration emerges not through forceful intervention, but through compassionate, strategic engagement, recognizing that every psychological barrier contains inherent wisdom, waiting to be understood, integrated, and ultimately transcended. Reflecting on this journey, we find ourselves standing at the confluence of profound psychological landscapes and spiritual territories, where human vulnerability meets transformative potential. The intricate pathways we've traversed reveal not a simple linear progression, but an interconnected ecosystem of healing, resistance, and ultimately, radical hope. Imagine emotional transformation as a sophisticated cartography, where each internal barrier represents not a dead end, but a nuanced terrain waiting to be understood. The barriers we construct, those invisible walls of protection, those carefully engineered defense mechanisms, are not our enemies, but complex survival narratives crafted through lived experience. They whisper stories of resilience, of intricate adaptive intelligence that has carried us through unprecedented challenges. Our exploration unveils a fundamental truth. Transformation is not about conquest, but conversation. It's a delicate dialogue between our deepest fears and our most audacious possibilities. Like a masterful composer creating symphonic complexity, we learn to integrate seemingly discordant emotional frequencies, trauma's haunting undertones, hope's luminous melodies, into a resonant, harmonious understanding. The human spirit demonstrates an extraordinary capacity for reinvention that defies conventional scientific and psychological frameworks. We are not merely reactive organisms, but dynamic, self-designing systems capable of profound recalibration. Each moment of vulnerability becomes a quantum leap, a strategic disruption that rewrites our internal narrative architectures. Consider how resilience emerges not through eliminating challenging experiences, but by developing sophisticated navigation skills. We become internal cartographers, mapping emotional terrains with increasing precision, recognizing that what appeared insurmountable can become a pathway to unprecedented growth. Our psychological landscapes are not fixed territories, but living, breathing ecosystems constantly regenerating, adapting, evolving. The journey we've undertaken reveals something far more profound than a simple methodology of healing. It's an invitation, a radical, compassionate call to recognize our inherent capacity for transformation. We stand at the intersection of personal history and future potential, holding the nuanced understanding that our past does not dictate our trajectory, but rather provides rich, complex data for our ongoing evolution. As we approach the final terrain of our exploration, something remarkable emerges, a recognition that true restoration is not about achieving a predetermined state, but about cultivating an expansive, dynamic relationship with our own unfolding potential. We are not broken systems awaiting repair, but intricate, intelligent beings continuously designing ourselves in real time. The path forward whispers with possibility, inviting us to step beyond the familiar boundaries of our known selves, to embrace the mysterious, generative space where limitation dissolves and genuine transformation takes root. In the profound landscape of human experience, transformation emerges not as a distant promise, but as an intimate, moment-by-moment invitation. Our psychological journeys are not predetermined paths, but living, breathing ecosystems of possibility, constantly reshaping, adapting, and revealing unprecedented potential. The story of Lazarus transcends a singular miraculous event. It becomes a powerful metaphor for the human spirit's extraordinary capacity to resurrect hope from seemingly insurmountable darkness. Imagine standing at the threshold of your own metaphorical tomb, those internal landscapes where pain, anxiety, and repeated disappointment have constructed walls that feel impenetrably real. The narrative we've explored reveals a revolutionary truth. These barriers are not permanent structures, but temporary geographical locations within your personal journey. Each limitation carries within it the seeds of its own transformation, waiting for the precise moment of compassionate disruption. The human spirit possesses in remarkable alchemy, the ability to convert profound pain into extraordinary resilience. Our challenges are not obstacles blocking our path, but intricate teachers offering nuanced wisdom. Every moment of psychological constraint contains an embedded invitation to expand, to reimagine, to step beyond current narratives of limitation. Restoration isn't about erasing past wounds, but developing a sophisticated relationship with our entire emotional terrain. Breakthrough doesn't require grand, dramatic gestures. It emerges through microscopic moments of courageous vulnerability, tiny, intentional steps that gradually dismantle deeply entrenched psychological barriers. Like a skilled cartographer mapping uncharted territories, we learn to navigate our internal landscapes with increasing precision, recognizing that what appears immovable can become a gateway to unprecedented growth. The voice that calls us beyond our tombs, whether experienced as divine intervention, inner wisdom, or profound self-compassion, speaks a universal language of potential. It whispers not with judgment, but with a radical, transformative invitation. Rise, move, reimagine. This call transcends religious, psychological, and cultural boundaries, touching the fundamental human capacity for renewal. As we stand at this intersection of personal history and future possibility, we hold a profound understanding. Our past does not dictate our trajectory, but provides rich, complex data for our ongoing evolution. We are not fixed, static beings, but dynamic, self-designing systems capable of extraordinary recalibration. Each moment of vulnerability becomes a quantum leap, a strategic disruption that rewrites our internal narrative architectures. The path forward is not a linear progression, but an intricate, multidimensional dance of healing and potential. It invites us to embrace the mysterious, generative space where limitation dissolves and genuine transformation takes root, not as a distant dream, but as an immediate, lived reality. Your story is still being written, and this moment represents another extraordinary opportunity to pick up the pen and create something remarkable.